Ladies and gentlemen, this is BC. Welcome back to another episode. What's funny is as I'm shooting this episode, I actually shot two more episodes earlier, interviews. So if you guys do follow this podcast on every major platform, you can also see the video format, which I'm beginning to upload again on YouTube. The Supreme Being podcast channel, I think has like 500 subscribers or something. Definitely check it out there if you want to see the video stuff. I upload a lot of the episodes on there as well, especially the interviews, which I know you guys will enjoy a lot. Sponsored by Team BC, my real estate team. We're now nationwide. Shout out to them. If you guys are interested in joining my team, join teambc.com. Go there, schedule a call with the regional leader in your area. If you want to join EXP under me and not work directly for me, go to partner with Team BC. And lastly, Modern Success, my coaching program, my tribe. Shout out to them. They sponsor this podcast as well. Okay, so let's begin. I wanted to talk a little bit today about a topic that I find very important, and it's polarity, right? It's one of the universal laws. We deal with it all the time. And as I've developed and got more knowledge of life, the world, perception, the mind, the subconscious mind, neurology, and the more I get into my studies, the more I realize that these universal principles are embodying everything. They're always present. And if you observation can spot them, it becomes a little bit easier for you to understand what's going on in this planet, this world, and whatever particular situation you're dealing with, right? So one thing I wanted to talk about today is opposites, polarity, right? Boom, boom, boom. And so everybody gets it, right? Because I know I have a wide variety of viewers and listeners, and I'm never going to speak on a subject assuming everybody knows about it. So let's begin. When I say opposites, this is what I mean, okay? Duality, right? One cannot exist without the other. Let me give you a few examples, right? If sadness did not exist, there would be no happiness. Okay? Sunrise, sunset, right? Even the sun and the moon. All these things. North would not exist if south wasn't here. Male would not exist without female and vice versa. Okay? Left would not exist without right. These are very basic tenets in this law. Okay? Now, that sounds cool from the outside. Well, how about an application, right? Because there's a big difference there. There's theory and application, and most people dabble in theory. They read a lot, they study a lot, which is great. But how about an application? Well, let's look at life. Maybe some of you, right, if we're going to apply this principle to many areas, let's say some of you are going through struggles right now. Well, triumph and victory would not exist without struggles and temporary defeats, however you want to say it, right? Don't get caught up in the words. Just understand it. Just understand it. So I would remind myself, and I knew, hey, I'm going through a tough time right now. The first couple months of my real estate career is an example, or me stepping from, basketball into the professional world and figuring that out. I went through a lot of low points when I finished basketball. Damn, talk about being at a fucking low point for a while. Jesus. I was fucking on a different planet mentally in a bad way. However, I knew when I would get out of my emotions, keywords, get out of my emotions. I said, you know what? If we're going to put an image on this and I'm on the road of life, my vision right now is me holding my head low and looking at the ground. So all I see is one step ahead of me. Yet when I lift my head and I look forward, I'm like, hey, where I'm standing right now is hot and it's lava. But if I look ahead, 3 more steps ahead, it's the street again, right? It's the road. I'm okay. The temperature is going to go back to normal. And that's kind of what I would reference in these things. So from a perspective standpoint, it was, I'm looking at the short term. I'm not looking at the long term. And on the long term, you're going to have the ups and downs, the ebb and the flow, right? Up wouldn't exist without down. We're back to this principle. Okay. Now, it can be difficult and challenging in the moment to access that, right? Which is why I've been preaching for people the last couple of years, especially for people to get up into their higher self and stop living down here and start living up here. That's how you can start applying this stuff. This is what will give you more peace, right? Many of you come to me as an example, like on the business side, looking for more consistency, more motivation, and that kind of stuff. If you handle what I just said, you won't have to work with that anymore. You won't. Because this transcends that. This is the underlying thing that will handle that. You've heard me say this before. A lot of times we look at what we perceive to be the problem that is merely a symptom of the problem. Okay? Let's look at some other places, right? We look at a moment in time now where we've reached a point where we can say in our personal lives that maybe we're disgusted with something, we don't like something. And in many cases, when you analyze those situations, what do we find? Well, the opposite can be true. If I'm unhappy with my physique, I can be happy about my physique. Now, when you look on the timeline, the last year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, you have taken small steps every day to get you to the point of being disgusted or unhappy. It didn't happen overnight. Okay. So now, systematically, to flip it, you're going to have to do the same thing. The same detrimental steps and actions you took to get you there, you will have to flip that polarity and take the right steps for multiple days consistently to go and do it, to fix it, to better it, whatever it is that you're looking for. Again, don't get caught up in the words. Look at some of you maybe now transitioning into becoming a real estate agent or being an entrepreneur, right? And maybe you're finding the way of thinking, managing your finances, and all these new subjects that you're presented with. You're like, whoa, it's a lot. I'm having some challenges. Of course. Look at the timeline of life. You lived 18, 20, 25, 30, insert your age, years thinking and being a certain way. And now you want to implement change. Why would it be easy? In what world would it be easy? That would be a superhuman that could just suddenly adopt this new way and they're perfect. Now, we as humans adapt, of course, but you're not going to do it overnight. Again, look at the opposite side of it, right? So when we begin to deduce things in this logical way, it becomes easier for you to put understanding. This is the word, understanding, on what you're going through. A lot of times we look at emotional states, and because we don't have an understanding of it, we suffer. Now, eventually, you don't need a fucking understanding because it's just a fucking emotion. But if we're going to attack it from this angle, right? In the meantime, as we're working our way up there, because I'm not there yet, right? And that's a part of our humanity. We're going to be aided by emotions, some more, some less. But if I can have more understanding around the mechanisms around what it's like to be human, our emotional process, our thought process, our mind, our psychology, wow, okay, now I become better equipped to handle situations that are occurring. So now as I'm gathering experience and applying these things and I get feedback, I know what to change and where to move. And I'm not so thrown off. I'm not so in my emotions. I'm in my higher self, not my lower self. Right. And even that example, the higher self would not exist without the lower self and vice versa. Right. So this permeates every fabric of reality when you break it down this way. That's why I love these things, because they're universally applicable, and I've been more on that line and wavelength the last 2-3 years, especially because to me, that's the most important. I don't want to just get better in one area. I want to get better in all areas. That way, whatever I attack in life, and I don't even want to use the word attack, whatever I approach, whatever I decide to get into or work with, it's not a problem. It's not a problem, because what I've taken and before I can apply to this. Why? Because the majority of what I'm learning is universally applicable. You see, the issue is we have not reached individually and collectively a way of thinking to where we now apply this universal principle to things that we learn. Okay. A lot of people will come to me as an example, and I've done this too. I'm guilty of this. And they'll learn from me. I'll speak about something that is completely relatable. Let's forget about things that aren't, because there are some things that aren't, right? But I'll speak to something that's relatable to real estate. But because the subject isn't real estate, I get attacked, or people say, why are you teaching me this? What does it have to do with blank real estate? Fill in the blank on this one, right? But it could be anything. I'm attempting to get people, by teaching them and slowly introducing these things in this fashion, to think that way and to be able to make that connection without me having to point it out. You see, um, this is now our process of evolution from the school of thought, in a sense, right? This is the thing that I've been focused on and that I've been pushing to the people around me. This is the answer to everything that you need. This. Imagine if you had that right now. The ability to think at a higher level. How would that benefit you in every positive and, in quotes, negative situation that you're dealing with right now? Challenge, whatever. It would more than likely put you farther ahead, for sure, at the very least. Maybe it won't solve all your issues, but it'll put you a step ahead. 100%, without a doubt. Everybody unanimously, if I presented this, would say, okay, yeah, I agree with that. So again, we are bombarded on the outside and we've been told and led not to this path of thinking this way and rationalizing and doing this. It's do this, right? We just get whatever the status quo is in society, which is what it is now. Go to school, get a degree, get a job, right? Now, how about doing that plus adding this? How many people have you met and that I have met who believe that they're not in control of their lives and they truly believe that? That's sad to me. I don't care what level you're at from society standpoint as far as success and all the bullshit labels that we use, because that's really what separates people and keeps them apart and keeps everybody fucking fighting, is this divide and conquer bullshit, right? So forget about those labels. Just forget about them for a second, at least for the 10 more minutes that I'm going to speak. So what if we added this? How would that shake things up? How would it change it? Tremendously, I believe, because when I look at the people who at any level come to my stuff and start messaging me that they're having breakthroughs, which I appreciate because I get those messages every day, I can always trace it back to this. Oh man, this one video that you posted got me to think about this and it caused this, and then the domino effect went into place. Normally I can trace it back to helping them and assisting them, right? Change the way they looked at something or upgrading the way they think or something like that. It wasn't necessarily oh, do this, or I gave them in quotes something like here's a tool to break, to hammer the nail into the fence. It wasn't like that. It was a mental tool, we can say, right? And that's always been my focus. Because to me, you know why? Because for me individually and for the other individual that it's given to, it gives the individual power, which is what I would want. I would want a group around me, and that's what I'm building around me, especially with the people in my coaching program and my team. A bunch of badass, strong individuals. It's not about me. Look at my nationwide team. Besides Team BC, you're not going to see my face or anything else on that shit. It's just Team BC because it's the team. And I want to create that and Modern Success and everything else, a bunch of badass individuals. That's what I want. Collectively now, that's a force to be reckoned with, but it requires this at the core. Everybody has to have some sort of understanding and mastery of the mind, thought processes, and things of that nature, right? So when we even rewind back to when I went on my mastermind with my team in Florida, half or more of the time was spent on stuff like this, right? Yeah, we did business planning and all that other fun stuff that everybody does, of course. But what's underneath that? Because that stuff has been out for years, right? You can YouTube now virtually anything. Even since I got in the real estate business and the entrepreneurial world in the last 7 years, it's completely revolutionized. When I started and posting content and looking, there really wasn't shit. Now you can find anything about anything. It's insane. It's crazy. It's cool to see too. There's some stuff I don't agree with, but whatever, right? It is what it is. But man, it's super cool. But with all that out there, I look at my industry, the failure rate has remained the same, if not gone up over that time. Now, if we look at that logically, how can that be possible? My mind goes to say, well, what I've been saying for years too, and what I've been told and taught is it's not the surface level stuff. It's not just the business plan and oh, I need to do this and do that that makes somebody successful or gets people to actually figure it out. It's not that. There's something else. So the journey has been, what is that something else that we need to add or implement or do to achieve whatever it is that we want? That's been the quest the whole time. And as we're starting to piece these things together, now we can package it up and say, oh, it's this, and start leading people. Hey, I'm not going to walk through the door with you, but hey, I can tell you, going through that door, you're going to find something interesting. Check it out, which is the way I prefer to do it. Right? Versus holding people's hands too many times. There's times and places to do that, of course. But I would rather you be uncomfortable and hey, go through the door yourself. I've been through it. Go. I could take you, but I'd rather you go. Right? Because you're going to feel more accomplished when you do it on your own. I'll give you the tools. Here's the key. There's the door. Go for it. Go open the door. That's the way I think it needs to be done. But that's been demonized and villainized. People are coming up saying, no, you need to take me to the door. Give me the key and take me to the door. It's like, no, dude, no. You're missing something if that's what you think it needs to be all the time. Again, what is that missing? The individual responsibility, self-reliance, all that stuff. But the individual is what it's missing, the I. Now, this road and this path, what I'm discussing right now, is, again, from an emotional standpoint, a lot more uncomfortable, a lot more, mysterious, question mark for a lot of people. And that's why we avoid it. Isn't it interesting that as human beings, a lot of times what is even logically, we know, hey, this is what I need to be doing. We avoid it. Isn't that a trip? But you know what the interesting part is that can be flipped and you can rewire that and change it. We have that type of technology. You can do it to now be attracted to and run towards things you know you need to do versus shying away from them. Even let's talk about flipping the polarity on the comfort zone. You can get to the point where you're constantly engaged in things that put you outside of your comfort zone to now the discomfort in quotes. Now that becomes your comfort and it flips, and you not doing what you're supposed to do now becomes uncomfortable for you and you don't want to do it anymore. I've gotten to that point. Like sometimes now, if I want to, in quotes, what other people would say, have fun as they label it, or just disconnect, right? I don't want to do that stuff. Like for me to pick up a video game now and play, like I have to force myself and talk myself into it. It's crazy. Whereas before, I would get sucked into a video game for hours endlessly and be like, oh shit, I've been playing for 6, 7 hours when I knew I shouldn't have been doing it. So that's kind of where my mind has been at with some of these things. And, I am gravitating more towards people that are on the same train of thought, right? I'm really pushing this on individuals around me. And I just think it's so much bigger and more important than just little stuff, right? Because we still do the little stuff. That's already a part of us, right? It's not like we weren't doing it and now we need to add more of that. No, there's a time and place for it. But how about what's behind that door that we're told not to look there, or we ourselves want to go, but we won't look? Why not? Why not? Why not? All right. So I'll end it here. I appreciate everybody listening and watching today. This podcast has really evolved, and when I started it, I really wanted it to be open and for me to do whatever I want. I remember in the beginning, especially on YouTube and here, I would get so much backlash for talking about things that aren't real estate, when in reality, I've said this a million times and I'll reiterate it again. Real estate is cool, right? I got into real estate to use it as a vehicle, and I have, and I continue to do so, right? It wasn't just be an agent, right? I wanted to, again, grow a nationwide team like I've had, and I had a bigger vision for it, not just being a solo agent and doing my thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just my vision wasn't that. That's where it started, but it's not where it was going to end. Okay. So thank you everybody for tuning in. We are live every Monday and Wednesday here for Supreme Being. Again, we're on iTunes, Spotify, all the major platforms. Again, I'm uploading the videos of the podcast as well back on YouTube. So we started that again if you enjoy watching the video format just as much. Other than that, shout out to Mono Success. I will make a quick announcement that if you're interested, I'm doing the first week of January a 5-day appointment setting challenge exclusively focused on making you better at setting appointments and all that fun stuff. So if that's something you want to work on, I definitely recommend you contact me. I'll send you the sign up and get on it, because that challenge is going to be intense and it's going to be good. All right. That's it for this one, guys. I appreciate you. We'll see you on the next episode. Peace.